What would you do if someone deliberately pushed your disabled daughter off a ramp in the dead of night? If your child, who had already lost her mother in a tragic plane crash and was paralyzed from the waist down, was suddenly sent flying from her wheelchair by a person who was supposed to uphold the values of your community. That night changed everything. I still see it sometimes, burned into memory like a scar that won't fade. The twist of Lily's face in that split second when her wheelchair tilted, the helpless flailing of her arms, the cold screech of metal against concrete, and the sharp cry she made when she hit the ground. That sound tore through me. And when I looked up, when I turned from my daughter's pain to the woman who had just done it, I saw no remorse. Just a shocked face struggling between horror at her own actions and the self-righteous indignation of someone who still believed she was in the right. She had no idea who she was dealing with. My name is Jason Blackwood. I'm a single father, a man who stared down armed terrorists and led elite FBI units through hostage rescues and high-stakes operations across the country. But nothing, absolutely nothing, could have prepared me for that moment when I saw my child assaulted by a woman who saw us not as neighbors, but as a threat to her idea of perfection. 2 years before that night, I lost my wife, Rebecca, in a plane crash. The same crash that took Lily's ability to walk. Rebecca had been an astrophysics professor. She used to say the stars were her way of understanding God's handwriting. And Lily inherited that love. After the crash, she clung to astronomy like it was her last tether to her mother. Stargazing became a kind of healing. That's why we moved to Lakeside Terraces, a high-end gated community that boasted its own observatory. It wasn't just about safety and serenity. It was about giving Lily something to look forward to, a place where she could reconnect with her mum through the constellations they used to map together. The observatory was wheelchair accessible, a rarity, and in my mind, it was a sign that we were supposed to rebuild our lives here. Or so I thought. From the moment we arrived, the community's perfect illusion began to crack. Victoria Sinclair, the HOA president, made sure we knew it. Picture a woman frozen in time from a 1950s catalogue. Flawless makeup, not a hair out of place, and a voice sharpened over years of judging others from behind manicured fences. Our first encounter was during move-in day. I'd parked the moving truck temporarily in front of our cul-de-sac, half blocking the lane. Nothing major. But her voice sliced through the air like a razor. That vehicle is improperly parked and exceeds the permitted dimensions for our community. I turned to see her standing there, arms folded, clipboard in hand, sunglasses on despite the cloud cover. I tried to explain. It was temporary. We'd be done soon. But her gaze slid past me to Lily, who was directing the movers on where to set up her telescope gear. That's when she said something I'll never forget. Visible medical equipment can be disturbing to some residents. Perhaps you could make sure your daughter's wheelchair is kept out of sight when not in use. At first I thought I misheard her. But she repeated it, veiling the insult with a condescending smile and citing property values. I stepped closer, lowered my voice, and told her plainly, "My daughter's wheelchair isn't up for discussion." Her lips tightened. "I'm just trying to help you integrate smoothly," she replied with a smirk. Then she turned and walked away, heels clicking like a gavel on pavement. Over the next few weeks, the notices started rolling in. Trash bins visible for too long. Our front ramp not matching the neighborhood aesthetic. My accessible van being too large for residential parking. Every time I responded with clear references to the Americans with Disabilities Act. Every time Victoria backed off, briefly. Then came October 17th, the night of the Orionid meteor shower. Lily had been buzzing for days, printing charts, inviting local kids, preparing a mini lesson about comets and meteors. The observatory technically closed at 10 p.m., but exceptions had always been made for major celestial events. Previous HOA boards even issued written flexibility for nights like these. That evening was a success. Parents and children came. Lily was in her element, guiding her peers through the cosmos, pointing out streaks of light as Halley's Comet remnants lit up the night sky. When it got late and families trickled out, Lily asked if we could stay just a little longer. "Please, Dad," she whispered. "Mum would want to see the whole thing." I couldn't say no. So we stayed until nearly midnight. She was dozing off in her chair when I finally said it was time to head home. The walk back took us down a gently winding ramp that zigzagged alongside the observatory stairs. Cool autumn air wrapped around us, and the scent of leaves filled the air. I pushed her chair carefully, letting her nap. Halfway down the ramp, a figure stepped into our path. Victoria Sinclair. Arms crossed, eyes sharp with fury. "The observatory closes at 10, she said, her voice cutting through the night. "You're trespassing." I sighed, tried to keep it civil. "Victoria, there's an exception for nights like this. It's an astronomical event." We were quiet, respectful. "The policy is what I say it is," she snapped. "And I've had complaints about your little gathering. Noise complaints." That was absurd. The observatory was secluded. No homes within earshot. I tried to maneuver around her, but she stepped into our path again. "I've had enough of you two thinking you're special," she hissed. "That ramp on your house, that oversized van. And now, this girl running wild after hours. This is a respectable community, not a charity for the handicapped." Lily stirred in her chair, startled awake. Her face crumpled at the sound of Victoria's voice. I felt the rage rising in me, but I kept it locked down. Years of training taught me how to manage volatile people. "Step aside, Victoria," I said, calm but firm. She didn't move. Instead, she leaned in closer to Lily. "In my day," she said, "children like you stayed out of sight. They didn't demand special treatment. They didn't ruin neighborhoods. That was it. Move now, or I file a harassment complaint." Victoria's expression twisted in rage. "How dare you threaten me?" she spat. Then it happened. She grabbed the wheelchair's handles and shoved. Hard. The world tilted. Lily screamed. The chair flew off the ramp. It flipped. She hit the pavement with a sickening sound. The chair landed beside her, metallic clatter echoing across the empty lawn. I was at her side in seconds. Her head was bleeding, her wrist limp and swelling. She cried out, "Dad, it hurts!" And above us, Victoria stood frozen. "She slipped," she stammered. "I was helping her move. It was an accident." But the damage was done. My daughter lay injured at the bottom of a ramp, while the woman who did it stood just feet away, still trying to justify it. And then, a voice spoke from the shadows. I saw everything. Dr. Sarah Chen emerged from the path behind the ramp. She'd just gotten home from her hospital shift and had heard the argument start. Something in her gut told her it might escalate, so she had stayed close. She ran to Lily's side, her trained hands already assessing the damage. "It wasn't an accident," she said. She pushed the chair. I saw it clearly. Victoria's face drained of color. "You can't prove anything," she whispered. But Sarah ignored her. She called 911, calmly and efficiently describing Lily's condition. She was a trauma specialist. She knew exactly what to say. The first to arrive was Sergeant Omar Washington, a police officer I'd worked with during a Seattle hostage crisis. When he saw me kneeling beside Lily, saw Sarah standing nearby, and then looked up at Victoria, he knew something serious had happened. Victoria tried to twist the narrative again, claimed we were trespassing, that I threatened her. But Omar wasn't buying it. Sarah stepped forward and handed him her phone. She had the entire confrontation documented. He watched, jaw tightening. Then he turned to Victoria. "Ma'am, you're being detained for assault pending investigation." She reeled back. "Do you know who I am?" she shouted. My husband's on the council. We donate to the police fund. Omar pointed at me. Do you know who he is? She looked at me, confused. This is Commander Jason Blackwood, he said. FBI Tactical Response, Presidential Commendation. The man you just assaulted the daughter of. Victoria went pale. The weight of her actions was finally crashing down on her. By the time the ambulance arrived, Lily was stabilized and ready to be transported. I climbed in with her, holding her uninjured hand as tightly as I could. She looked up at me and asked, Dad, is that mean lady going to jail? I smoothed her hair, careful not to touch the cut on her head. Yes, baby, I said. She is. What I didn't realize in that moment was that her fall off the ramp would start a chain reaction that would transform our community forever. Because sometimes, justice doesn't start in a courtroom. It starts with a child's courage,